that YouTube channel.
All right. All right, when you think about your progress as writers, what are some of the very specific things that you know to do now when you're writing about literature that you didn't know to do before?
Single word analysis. I used to only look at like these big paragraphs in books and like think of like what does this entire paragraph mean? But now I like look at sentences and like individual words and sentences and why they are put there for a reason. And I just think it like makes it a lot more well-rounded understanding of the book rather than just like, oh, this paragraph is this and oh, that paragraph is that.
Okay, all of you grew as writers. What do you think are some of the things that you learned how to do and then practiced doing that made your essays kind of go to the next level?
For me specifically is looking at the small picture stuff more than the big picture. Like, for some reason, wherever I read, I like find echoes and I'm like, this is an echo and this is a great paper, like things to write. And so like the lit devices really helped like make my paper stronger than it was before.
So coming from SEM, we talked a lot about analysis, and I've never really written about a book like that. So AP Lit taught me how to analyze like poetry and like close reading skills and everything like that, and how they make the books.
Talk about a breakthrough moment, a very specific moment where you realize something about reading or about writing or about yourself as a scholar, just some kind of like a moment you can pinpoint.
During the first try exam, my open-ended essay response was about one event in a book and how it changes how you view a work as a whole. And in the middle of writing it, I had this aha moment about Great Expectations, and like the event I wrote about, I can still quote the paragraph because it's like my favorite line in the book. But it just showed me, I think, I had a real realization how significant like one sentence can just be in a piece of literature that's 500 pages long, and that every single word an author writes does have value. And so I think that moment really taught me to look super, super closely at what I was reading.
Yeah, going off of what Zach said, I think even if you're not reading like a 500-page book, I think like Lizzie, the poetry paper, the first one we did, was my kind of breakthrough too. I've never really analyzed a piece of literature like that on that level where it's literally like word for word, or even where a sentence ends or what punctuation they use. And I think we just went in like with a different level of in-depthness to that and approached it completely different than I've ever approached any paper before.
Yeah, and I think like learning that poetry, okay, I used to be really intimidated by poetry, and
Yeah,
I think a lot
same.
of people were.
Yeah.
But once you realize that really the only difference between poetry and prose is structure, especially in like from an impromptu perspective, it makes it a lot easier and it makes it a lot more like meaningful to pick apart different poems.
Oh, and be prepared to be uncomfortable with what you're reading. Like, be prepared to not understand stuff right away, but to use that. It's Miss Cicera's most famous one is be inspired, not intimidated. So, like, when you're reading the books, you're not going to understand every single thing, but accepting that it's a process and not something that you get right away is super important and makes it a fun journey to be on.